Hey y'all, hey, this is the doc and Tia. What's up, you all? I did a video today when I was, pampering myself. And once I finished, Tia, told me, she said, Doc, did you cut off the video in the middle of it? I said, no. I did about 3 to 5 minutes of that video. She said, well, it cut off at 1:31 or whatever. And so I said, well, I'm not going to erase it because people had looked at it. And then once Till said it, some people started saying, was that the end of the video? Like I said, I was at a salon. I don't know what happened. But I'm here to tell you about, and I was talking about CPS. And the people do not know that that's Child Protective Services. And we have come on here and just have reported on how children are basically, I don't know if I don't know what the term to use. I know children are being unalive, they're being abused, and just so forth and so on. And so somebody said, well, maybe they should pay them more. Let me tell you something. When you accept a job and you accept that pay, you have accepted that. If you don't want to work and you really do not want to help kids, you shouldn't be in that field. When, it bothers me when I hear teachers, K through 12, if they say something like, I don't like kids, I can't stand them, why are you in that field? And, they'll say, I don't do anything to them. I understand that, but why are you in that field? If you get in a field that you like, you'll go to work and it won't seem like it's work because you're really doing what you like. I never got into social services or counseling or teaching because I didn't like it. I love it. I love when people learn, especially the young people. And you can actually pick. My temperament is at the high level. It just is. Have I worked in the school system? Yes, I have. My counseling, 5 to 18. I love children. I don't have children, but I love children. But if I didn't have the capacity and the compassion for children, that wouldn't be the field for me. It just wouldn't. And, and people say things, and I said, nothing about me is ever about money. Never. I don't do things for money. Till can tell you that. And I thank God I can say that. I am not a materialistic person. And I thank God for that. My parents, especially my father, and the first man I married. God has been so good to me through them that a lot of things don't excite me that excite a lot of people. Like, I know people, they go hard for their birthday. Tia birthday is in a few weeks. We said we're going to turn up or whatever, but our turning up would be boring to everybody else. People ask, we were going to, what was the name of that place? Great Wolf Lounge. Yeah. I think that's in LaGrange. We was going to drive there. And we were going to take my mother. And I told y'all my mama renovating the house and stuff and some other things. And I said, no, I ain't going. And so I said, I'm canceling, And so we canceled it. Because I know if I never go anywhere else, God been good to me. Very good. I want to thank everybody for your well wishes, their happy birthdays, and everything else. But I'm just not materialistic. So when people start coming back at me saying they should pay them more, whether or not you can afford to take that job. And when you're looking for a job and you don't have now a little bit of money, and I said that right, and you don't have now, I didn't say now, you don't have now. A little bit of money is better than no money. But if you're going to just sit down and you're not going to do anything, you're going to let people just mistreat these kids, then baby, That ain't the way you need to go. I don't care who it is. Now, I reported on a mother and her boyfriend. She has, I'm not sure if he's the father or not, but she has a 3-year-old son with Down syndrome. He only started to walk when he was about 3. I'm assuming the godmother, the aunt, the father, and everybody else that he get to call and reported how this child was being treated. The child is nonverbal. What do you mean by that? The child don't speak. Can the child scream? Yes. The child can scream, but not verbal. Nothing's coming out. No words. And you know that about your child. They remove the child. Let the godmother get him. Bruises everywhere. According to the godmother, they didn't call her. They text her a month after having him and said, you got to return him. I think she said 2:30. I can't really remember the time. And she started calling everybody else to call down there and find out what was wrong with them folks at the Department of Family and Children's Services. That's DFACS. And CPS is nothing but Child Protective Services. That's all that means. When people say CPS came out, or CPS did this, or CPS did that, okay, we see a few times, but they come out and they keep hounding one person. But this baby got bruises everywhere. And you're deciding to put him, they want to close the case or whatever. The godmother was saying they want to close the case, so the child need to be returned to the mother by 2 o'clock. They called everybody. And they said they'll get back with you in 48 hours. That baby didn't have 48 hours. When they got back, and I believe this was the aunt, the baby was no longer with us. Now the mother and the boyfriend is in jail where they need to be. But see, it's so many times we could stop things. It's so many times that we can do things to help the child. Because children don't have no voice. And I was telling I said, a lot of children don't have no voice. They ain't even going to tell it if they're their parents. But if you see it and you're a mandated reporter and you don't report it, you need to go ahead and get them licensed back. Get them certifications and everything else. Because you're just as guilty. There is no way in the world I would have fought tooth and nail not to give the child back. But that child possibly could be living. It's possibly. But the child didn't have a chance. We got to do more for our children. Every time you turn around, there's something going on with our children. And that Shannon, that London, what's her name? London Thomas. Mm-hmm. They saying that mama lied to the police. They locked up. Child on bond, I think, but they locked up. What about the young lady that the daddy cut off them hands and did awful things to her? And now let's talk about that little girl that they ain't never found out was 5 months pregnant by the aunt, baby daddy. All these things, and I'm sure there's more children. And we ain't doing nothing. They said the family was focused on Miss London, Thomas focusing on the funeral and all, and I understand that. And people are trying to say that he groomed her. I want to know, how did he groom her? Did these families know each other? But see, you got to be very careful who you allow your children to be around. You do. And everybody say, look the other way. I ain't looking the other way. I told Till I report on anybody. You mess with them children. And I see some little marks, honey. I get the reporting. And people say, are you scared? Scared of what? Scared that something going to happen to these kids if I don't? It's your duty. Because this is the thing. If somebody was beating your behind every day and mistreating you and slapping you all in your face, You don't want me to come and call the police for you. But see, they don't got stricter on these. I remember I was about 19, 20. The fair had came. I went to the fair. That's when the fair was big, when they would come. I was in college. Driving back from the fair, laughing, talking with the guy friend. And I saw this guy pick this woman up and threw her in the ditch. I said, stop the car. He said, we don't know them people. I said, stop the car. I'll get out and walk. She was crying. He was beating her. He said, I ain't going to stop the car. But see, it's been a while now. Y'all don't, some of y'all young folk don't know about telephone booths. We went to the telephone booth to call for help. The police came and everything. And I gave my statement. But once I gave the statement, the guy, they went ahead and I read they were going to arrest him because they had cuffed him. And he looked at me and he was like, you called? And I said, yeah, I did. I ain't going to tell you how I know him, but I did know him. And so I knew I was going to hear this again. So I just decided to go ahead and call and tell some people that I was the one. But that's how I was then. So if I would call and help a woman that I didn't know, because it was dark, I didn't know who they were. But I don't care who it is. I really don't. If it's a distant cousin, a distant friend, or whatever, if I see you, I'm going to call. Because I would want somebody to do that for me. If you see somebody picking me up, throwing me in the ditch and beat me, and you ain't going to call for help, I would think something's wrong with you. Again, in my opinion, CPS, something's got to happen. They got to do an overhaul, or they got to find some funds and hire some good people that'll stay there. Y'all, this is your girl. Seeing it all North right here on YouTube and the North on Facebook with Tia. Just coming back to bring you another story. Bye.